Well, that was a movie.
Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Justin, and today we're giving our first thoughts on Abigail, which, if you've seen the trailer, you know the plot. But if you haven't seen the trailer, it is about a group of people who kidnap a little girl just to find out that she is in fact a vampire, and then goes on to kill them all one by one. We went into this knowing it was going to be like in that most likely so bad it's good territory or whatever, but like self-aware so bad it's good. Like, it's not trying to be a good movie, it's just trying to be a fun, silly, stupid, leave your brain out the door kind of movie.
Yeah.
And I think it worked for a while. I got really bored the second half though. Did you enjoy the second half?
Not nearly as much as the first half.
No.
I've been noticing a lot. It'll have like just one part of the story where I'm really into it. And then they got to progress the story. They got to get towards the ending. They got to do something different to change it up to get where they want to go. And I haven't really liked many people's choices recently. And I mean, this was pretty obvious where this was going to go.
Oh, so predictable. One of the most predictable movies I've seen ever.
No, it was definitely a lot funnier at the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not outright a comedy. Maybe it is.
I have to think it is, that trailer.
In some ways it is a comedy, but like it follows that pitfall that a lot of comedies fall into, where it's like it's a funny concept and there's a plot. The plot doesn't matter, but then they feel like, oh, well, we have to wrap up the plot. So then they leave the comedy behind to tell the story. And I'm like, I do not care about this plot. So just focus on it being funny, because I am bored out of my mind now. So yeah, it was very entertaining for the first half or whatever. I think this movie's just under 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So like for the first hour or so, I enjoyed it even more than I thought I would, honestly. I really did enjoy a lot of it because it was either goofy and stupid, or it was actually in tiny little segments legitimately good. Like, some of the acting was very good, and then the goofiness of it was fantastic. I love that. And it honestly seemed like it was kind of taking itself seriously at the beginning, and then just slowly devolved into being ridiculous. And then, like I said, once it started focusing on the plot, I'm like, I don't care about this plot. It's ridiculous. Too much is happening, and it just kept going, and I stopped caring, and I got really bored by the end of the movie. So yeah, it started out as being like one of those like, wow, this is like, I mean, it's a 6, but it's a really fun 6. And I'm like, it's a 5 to me, because I only enjoyed half of it.
I think I'd still go with like the 6.5-ish for me.
Yeah.
It was funny at the beginning, but yeah, I did lose interest as well.
Absolutely.
Too many things. Just focus on what everybody loves about it.
Yeah.
Focus on that comedy.
Lean into the horror, comedy, all of that, and stop trying to make it a drama and like character development and shit. Leave all of that out of it.
But we share empathy.
I didn't. I had no sympathy or empathy for any of
But the
these
characters are sharing empathy, and then we care about their empathy, right?
Yeah, and every time somebody's about to die, we're gonna put a giant flashing neon sign above their head saying, "I'm about to die now." And you're like, oh, we're just gonna keep doing that. They did it once, and I was like, that was stupid. They did it a second time, I'm like, really? You did it again? Wow, okay. But like I said, I did enjoy the cast. I thought the collection of the group of people, which was fun. I mean, it was Guardians of the Galaxy is what it felt like. They were trying to hit all of those kind of characters, except for, Gamora was the main character instead. But I mean, you've got your Drax, you've got your Rocket the Raccoon. Like, it felt like they were just like, hey, that worked. Take him and put him here,
I mean...
And it was good. I enjoyed the actors. Mac Miller is very believable.
Oh yeah, Agnes Cloud.
Melissa Barrera plays Joey. She's the main character of this movie. I enjoyed her performance. I thought she was good. I mean, like I said, all of them though. I'll say Dan Stevens plays Frank. Alicia Weir plays Abigail. William Catlett plays Rickles. Catherine Newton plays Sammy. Kevin Durant, not that one, plays Peter, and he was also, I really enjoyed him. Juan Collar, how the hell do you say his name? Giancarlo?
It's like Giancarlo.
Is it Giancarlo?
Giancarlo, I think.
Giancarlo.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Mr. Esposito plays Lambert. They all fit their roles very well, and I thought they were all really good. It was very entertaining, like I said. It was just until the plot kicked in that I was like, I don't care anymore. And like the first half of this movie knew that. Like they're not beating around the bush. The movie just goes. It starts. You're in the middle of it when it starts. And I was like, that's what we should have been the whole time, is just the fast-paced action. Even getting to, we don't like see any sort of horror elements for a good chunk of this movie. Like, I was waiting for it to happen for a long time, longer than I expected to, but there's still stuff happening really quick.
Yeah.
And that's what it should have been. It should have just been fast-paced, funny, one-liners, silly things happening, a lot of people saying things in the background, like a guy gets shot, and then as they're walking away, you hear in the background him go, you know it hurts to get shot. And it's just like stuff like that. It was hilarious to me, and I loved that. And that all went away when they were finishing up the story. And I was like, I don't care about that story, especially what they end up doing with it, which is boring and lame. It started out, like, as I said, like a 6 or something, but a fun 6, something I would go back to, have a lot of fun with, plan to rewatch. But after having seen the second half, I mean, I don't want to watch it again. I would maybe watch the first half again, but then I would turn it off because I would get bored.
There's a clear section to just switch that away.
Yeah, skip scene.
Yeah.
Don't care. And even why bother skip scene, because it doesn't get better again. You just might as well turn it off unless you really need to see that.
Yeah, that's ending. A good point. It's got a couple of comedy moments that just aren't as good as the beginning because there's not as many people anymore.
From the part where they go into the room and they're hanging out under the window, you don't have to watch anything past that. There's a couple okay moments, like you said. There's a couple of funny moments after that, but nothing great. And the pacing just gets thrown off. There's like a little bit where they're like, all right, we're getting going again, and then it drops off. So yeah, if you're watching this movie in the theaters and you see them all hanging out under a window, you can just walk out. You're not going to miss anything after that. And you'll be like, oh, short movie. Maybe I can go catch something good. You can do that.
Yeah, quietly sneak into a different theater. But time this well.
I don't know. Is there anything else before we get into spoilers? It's really not much to talk about. It's just...
No, I mean, this movie doesn't have much to it. It's just... They kidnap the girl. They wait in the house. They find out she's a vampire, and she attacks.
They also bicker and argue amongst themselves.
Yep. And there's a lot of great banter between them when they're all around and they're all just firing off each other. It's pretty funny.
Actually, a pretty boring conversation near the beginning, too. When she's, like, telling them all who she thinks they are or whatever. That went on really long, and that was really boring.
Yeah.
But that was the only bad part in the first half that I was like, why? I don't care. And it was like foreshadowing. This is going to come back. I don't care. There's actually a lot of that foreshadowing. I was like, oh, okay, that's not going to lead to anything. And, oh, okay, that's sure. This was, like I said, one of the most predictable movies I have ever seen in my entire life. Seriously, like down to predicting the order people were going to die, down to knowing what the bad guy's plot was, what the multiple twists were going to be. Every single thing I saw coming. Every single one. I was like yawning instead of being like, oh, well, that was something. So, I don't know. I guess we'll just get into spoilers now. But, yeah, I mean, maybe go... If you see it with a crowd, it definitely would make it more fun. We saw it with a sizable group, but nobody talked. It was kind of a silent crowd for some reason, which was surprising to me. But yeah, it's one of those laugh at it, have fun with it kind of movies.
Yeah, nothing to take seriously.
But unfortunately, it started to take itself too seriously for the second half or whatever. But I still think it could be fun for a first watch or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
Back me up. You're the one that gave it a 6.
Listen, if you see a lot of movies or you can catch this on sale, you can have a good time with half of it, and then you can finish the movie.
Yeah, go on a Tuesday. Pay half price for half a movie.
Fair.
Logic. All right, we're going to get into spoilers now. So if you don't want anything spoiled, you should click away now. Go watch it, come back, and we can talk about it then. But please don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye. So, spoilers. Yeah, so... I don't know. I guess we can go through this chronologically. So, you know, the movie starts right off the bat. I thought there was going to be some sort of setup, but they're just kidnapping the girl.
No, just immediately.
First scene. And I was like, okay, sure. Why bother? You know, we don't need to know who any of these people are. Which happens to be part of the plot, is you're not supposed to know who any of these people are when it starts, because they try to... It's weird. And it's like the people who made this movie didn't make the trailer, and maybe that's the case, because they try to trick you for a portion of this runtime into thinking this has nothing to do with vampires. There's a serial killer. And they're like, it could be one of us. And they do that for like 5 minutes. I'm like, I know it's not. I saw the trailer. I know there's a vampire girl. So maybe, and I was wondering, I was like, is there a way they could have advertised this movie to make it look interesting without giving that away? Because if you didn't know going to this movie, that would have been a fun, what the fuck?
See, I would have been wildly... I can't imagine the vibe of the trailer that doesn't give away that she's a ballerina vampire.
It
had to be so serious, and then for me to go from that sort of a trailer to the actual movie, it would be the most the reason I can give this a 6 is because I knew what I was going in with.
Sure.
If I just walked into that expecting like a serious movie, I would be so mad.
It would have been hard to tell the vibe of this movie without giving away that, because I mean I think the only thing you possibly could do would include other spoilers, like letting you know who dies and showing how they die, and then having the dialogue with the jokes and stuff would be the only way to like get across that this is a goofy movie, don't take it seriously. And you'd be giving away so much that it's like, I think the only choice they had was to show the vampire girl. But I'm like, imagine going into this not knowing.
That would be a wild reveal. That would be one of the craziest reveals in a while.
You just see her start taking off the handcuffs and you're like, where is this going? And then you're just like, what the fuck?
I'm sorry, what's about to happen to you?
Because I mean, essentially, that's what the watching the trailer for the first time was like, you're just like, okay, this is a basic, boring group of people, they're all criminals or whatever, blah blah blah. Not a heist, but kind of similar vibe. And what the fuck? That was the trailer experience. So I wish you could have like experienced that as part of the whole.
She's a vampire.
Yeah.
Ballerina.
Then she's flying. What the fuck?
The first little whatever ballerina move.
Yeah.
Pure whatever the fuck it's called.
Don't even try. It's fine.
I'm not gonna try. Whatever the hell that is. That's all. That 2 seconds alone was like, oh, that's the movie right there.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And it was so enjoyable for that section. And then so they end up, catching her and putting her in a cage, and the movie just screeches to a halt. And part of that is they've only got 4 characters left at this point.
And we lost the funniest one.
We lost the funniest one, and we lost the more interesting one in the Marine guy. And we can't just keep killing them, because then we have no more plot. So they stop killing people, and it becomes so boring. Yeah. And then quickly, you kill off 2 immediately because the one becomes a vampire, so then kills the other, and so you lose 2 characters in 1 second, essentially. And so now you've got only 2 characters left, and so then you have to take yet another break because you can't kill either one of them until the end of the movie, essentially. And so it's just like you just didn't pace it out right, and it just kept getting more and more slow and more boring. There weren't as many jokes because you're killing off all the funny people, so you're just left with the main character types who aren't particularly funny in any way. And it just also, I mean, there was like cool imagery that they completely wasted, like the pool full of dead bodies. That was cool.
Yeah,
we're not ever gonna talk about that again, though.
I honestly forgot about that for a while.
It was the coolest thing in the whole movie, and they're just like, and we're done.
No, it's just there.
Why do they put them in there? I don't know. It's easier than burying them, I guess. Sure.
Preserves? I don't know.
Does it? The chlorine? I don't know.
Shoot, it's vampires. I don't know.
And so, and then to top it off and make it incredibly bad, so they go through the secret passageway where they meet the head bad guy, Lambert. You think he's the head bad guy, but he's... Well, okay, you think he's a good guy. You think he's a good guy, but you know he's a bad guy who's orchestrating all of this, and he's also sort of working for the father. You don't need to know all of this. It's pointless. He's a vampire, too. Shocker. Didn't see that coming. And so then he offers to turn one of the main characters into a vampire to let him join him, and then shockingly he betrays him and kills him immediately. Didn't see that coming. And then the little ballerina girl comes in, gets caught off guard because she doesn't know he's a vampire now, so then he kills her. So what do you think? Then he's attacking the main character, and then the ballerina comes back from the dead and said, "You didn't kill me, right?" And you're like, why are you here? This is so dumb. So then they have to kill him now, working together, because they made a promise thing. And it was like, it was so boring and just kept going. And I didn't care about any of that. It was so bad.
Hey, but they connected over being a parent and a child of a parent.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That vampire is a daughter. And that main character woman has a son. So it's deep connection. They have empathy now.
Yeah.
The best of friends.
Okay.
Die for each other.
And you know what? I'm bored. I was incredibly bored. I also thought it was, once again, speaking of cool things that they didn't ever use again. So if they go into the sunlight, you know, for some reason in this version you just explode immediately.
Yeah, it is the quickest sunlight effect on vampires I've ever seen.
Also, to be fair, any way they die, they just explode again. Stake through the heart, explosion.
That is true.
And I was like, why? Why are you just exploding into blood?
Big
Didn't
blood
make any
explosion,
sense.
that's why.
But anyway, so they break open the window as she's attacking somebody, so her hand explodes, because that's the one part that was in the sun, and it starts to grow back. That was cool. That looked really cool. And once again, they don't ever touch on it again. It's like that was just wasted imagery that could have been used for something else, and he's just like, yeah, we'll just do it once, and then never again.
Hey man, that was expensive.
And then we'll just explode vampires left and right. So much blood. So much exploding. And I was just like, eh. It was kind of like reminiscent in a way of, what's it called?
That's a good question.
I'll get there. Don't rush me. Renfield. But it wasn't nearly as creative with its gore as Renfield. It just went blood. Whereas Renfield would be like, hey, we're going to do this goofy thing. We're going to do that goofy thing. Yeah. This was just like explosion of blood every time. Same thing every time. And it got boring.
But they exploded everywhere.
Oh.
That doesn't stay exciting?
No.
Every single time?
Also, that jump scare, in reality, doesn't make any sense. So he's sitting on the bed. She walks in, is watching TV. And then from our vantage point, the light flashes on because he's got a lighter, and he's holding it on his face. So he clicks the lighter on, flame, and he's wearing this mask.
Yeah.
And there's a loud dun because it's a jump scare. And she goes, ah, don't scare me. Think about that in reality. She's sitting on a bed, doesn't know anybody's behind her. The only noise that happens, because she doesn't see the flame, it's behind her, the only noise is... And she goes, ah, don't scare me.
Hey.
How did you know? If you heard that, you probably would have heard him breathing too.
He's holding his breath underneath that mask, okay? It muffles a lot of sound underneath that mask.
I guess she's just particularly high-strung or something.
Hey, they're in this creepy house right now, you know.
So then Rickles, he's got this spiel about like, all right, we're going to be the two to make it out of here. We're going to be safe. We're going to make it back for your daughter. Or your son, sorry. And then immediately dies. And so it's like, you know that he's going to die because he's making this big spiel.
Of course,
like,
he's going to make it out.
And then later in the movie, you've got the other two characters, and he goes, do you have anybody on the outside you care about? And she goes, yeah. You're going to make it back for them. We're going to make it for them. I've got somebody I care about too. We're going to make it for them. And you're like, so they're both about to die right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us know. You just telegraphed that to us right now. Thanks. It's like, you can use that thing once ever, because maybe you would trick somebody that's not like familiar with like script writing techniques. Maybe you trick one person. You do it twice, now it's just sloppy. It's just lazy.
See, you gotta do that for every character. Then roll a die. Figure out how many times we're gonna fake out their death.
Yeah, we
really
missed
kill
it. It was cut for time. Yeah. But before every other character died, the stoner guy heading to the kitchen was like, by the way, I can't wait to see my mom. My wife and kids love me very much. Oh no, I'm a vampire. Just darn editors cut that for time.
I see them often. Ah, no.
We're going on a picnic on Sunday.
How will I ever face them again now?
But see, all of that is fine. All of that is funny. All of that's cool. It really is just the boringness of it that ruined everything for me. Yeah. I didn't need all this subplot. I didn't need all of these extra vampires. Also, the whole thing... Okay, I forgot to mention the worst part. So, during this fight... the vampire bad guy is now fighting the girl vampire and the main girl. Mm-hmm. He picks up, or something, he either stabs her through the thing or stabs her with a thing, but she's now stuck to a wall with
pushed her or something,
with
like
a metal bar
yeah.
going through her chest/shoulder. then he goes back to fighting the vampire girl. And now that he's sucked blood from her neck a second time, not killing her a second time,
of course,
instead of finishing her off right then and there, he's like, oh, but I've got this other person I can go kill right now. So he grabs her and lifts her off the thing, pulling the spike through her shoulder all the way, screaming as she goes. And he bites her to turn her into his half vampire, because there's full vampires, and then there are these like half vampires that are just brainwashed and do whatever they're.
Here's what I found.
Shut the fuck up! They just turn into like these zombie vampires where all they can do is what they're mind controlled to do. They have no free will, but they still have the powers of being a vampire. So he does that to her, and immediately like, well, she didn't turn because plot. You just know she's not going to have. She also wakes up and doesn't look like she's turned. So now he's like telling her what to do. So she's doing it to play along. He tells her, pick up that spike. And like, so she's going to pick it up and she's going to attack him with it. And that's exactly what happens. But then the one thing that makes you think, oh, she did actually turn is she should have a gaping hole through her shoulder / chest.
Right.
But vampires heal very quickly. And that hole is gone. And so then you're like, well, so maybe she did turn, but that wouldn't make any sense for the plot. And then she doesn't turn. So you're like, okay, so what about the hole? And then she goes and feels it and it's gone. So it's not just like, oh, we messed up on the makeup. It's actually gone. And she's like, am I gonna be? And then Abigail goes, no, you're fine. He's dead now. So she was turned, but her mind control guy is dead now, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I can only assume. I don't know if that's like regular vampire rules. Maybe that's just something I don't know about vampire lore. I don't know if you have to kill the person that changed you, or if it's just that they die. But if the person like that changed you died, then I guess you change back.
Well, so they weren't fully changed into vampires. They were like Renfieldified.
Yeah.
And so if you're a Renfield and you're no longer being mind controlled, you can be a completely good person. To an extent, even be somewhat normal if you stop eating the bugs or whatever. In this, they didn't really talk about bugs. But so she should have been a Renfield. But because being a vampire is hard and takes practice, he didn't do it right. And so she's not a Renfield, but she is a Renfield. But she's fine now because he's dead. Listen, what the hell was all of that?
She got the powers, right?
Sure, except she didn't have super strength.
She got the power she needed, right?
Healing,
right,
okay.
Right, exactly. Just the one she needed.
Just the one.
Yeah, and get fucked up teeth or anything. Just the one she needed.
No, yeah, just
because I was looking at the teeth, waiting for the change.
Yeah, her eyes look normal too.
Yeah.
Also, so how the vampire guy dies is he and the girl are fighting over putting a stake in his heart. So she goes to stab him. He stops him because they both have superhuman strength now. They're both vampires. He is, however, an adult man vampire. She is a little girl child vampire. So he is still stronger than her now. But then the normal human woman girl comes over to help, and apparently her strength is enough to then overpower him, obviously with the help of Abigail. But it's like, you know, if you and I were arm wrestling, let's say, maybe we're pretty even. We're going back and forth. And then a fly comes and lands on your hand. Oh! Like,
well, you
what?
see, you're forgetting. All right, he was still alive at that time, so she had some vampire super strength too, right there. Just in that moment, though. Just in that moment, though.
Because he threw her like she was still human.
And she was getting used to it. All right, she didn't brace herself. That was her issue. All right, she had to get her bearings and then learn how to use her strength by just deciding to use it later.
Sure. And I love how, like, either they, during the editing process, or they had to screen her for producers, somebody told them, this makes no sense, we have no idea what's going on, because they dubbed in lines from Abigail throughout the entire scene explaining shit as it was happening. Going, oh, he didn't do it right. Oh, you didn't suck out the blood. You didn't drain me. Just like clearly dubbed in, thrown in lines to try to vaguely explain whatever shit show is happening. And it's like, this doesn't help. It still doesn't make sense.
What do you mean? They explained it. They said the thing.
Just didn't fix it. This still sucks.
It makes total sense. They just explained the whole thing. Obviously, he didn't drain her of all the blood.
Right, because that's a thing you have to do.
And obviously, he didn't bite with proper technique.
Somebody stole a sniper rifle. I'm assuming Abigail did, but why?
Just to hide it.
Just to toy with them?
Just put it over here.
Yeah. Or maybe he didn't even, it wasn't stolen. He's just clumsy. He forgot where he put it. He's forgetful. He's absent-minded. He's like, shit, somebody stole it. Runs out of the room. Camera pans and it's over by the other window.
What does he really think he's going to do with that sniper rifle inside the building? Are his Halo scoping skills up to snuff?
I was just going to say,
If not,
I've played a lot of snipers only. I've been able to snipe people at close range.
See, but you gotta get those no-scoping skills up. Are his up to snuff? I don't know. Do they teach Marines no-scoping skills?
I would assume so.
I'd like to hope so.
Yeah. I love how, like, they just kept adding in things to, like the fact that she was in the Army had nothing to do with anything other than they needed reason for the Marine guy to trust her. And so, like, she should have just been a nurse that had, you know, a doping problem. You know, she got addicted to morphine. But they're like, but she was a nurse in the military, so that he trusts her. And then that went nowhere because he died almost immediately anyway. So it was like, her being in the Army had nothing to do with anything other than so people that were unimportant would trust her. It's like so much of the character building that they did was useless and pointless.
Hey, it had to move the plot along, okay?
Did it, though?
According to the people who wrote this movie.
I guess so. How many people wrote this movie? It felt like a committee. I don't think it was, though. Yeah, just 2 people.
They just cut Father out in general and just kept her just killing people for the fun of it in her own house.
Yeah.
Would have been just so much better.
So this movie was 1 hour and 50 minutes. It really should have just probably been 1 hour 20. You know? Keep it a quick 80 minutes, in, out.
That's fair.
Horror comedy.
Yeah.
Silly, stupid.
Funny or deaths for
irreverent.
3 or 4 other people.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Yeah. So going back to that lull moment real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. There's this point where, like, so we get to the window, what I'm saying, like, so they've trapped her in the basement, they think, and then she gets out and she is going to attack them, which just felt like we were killing time at this point, but then we go really into killing time mode, trying to stretch out this plot. So they get to this room with this big window. They're like, oh, she can't kill us because we're in sunlight, because she can't just be like right outside the sunlight throwing things at them or anything.
Hey,
with super, vampire strength.
That wouldn't be very vampirish.
So they're waiting around, and then the blonde girl goes, oh, duh, I'm a hacker. I know how to just, like, cut power to the building if we just find, like, the power supply or something vague and random. And you're like, oh, okay, so this is the bad plot we're now going with. But then that bad plot lasted all of 5 minutes just to have them go off and die. And it's like, it was just the epitome of wasting time. That's what that whole section was just sitting around wasting time. So she could turn into a vampire or a Renfield, kill him, and then attack them, and then they run back, and then she explodes because they reflected sunlight onto her. That could have all happened in that room. They didn't have to add the whole thing about we're going to go off and try and find this for 5 minutes. That could have been like, they're hanging out in that room, she starts turning, he tries to, like, help her because he doesn't know what's happening, she rips off his head, and then jumps at them and explodes. That's all that could have... Streamline this shit. Make it faster. Make it less boring. There is so much boring shit in that section, and I don't know why.
Hey, man. Listen. I don't know the... Actually, let me double check this.
Great content.
Yeah, damn. Way off on math.
What?
I was thinking 69 minutes for some reason, but that's way off on it.
So an hour is 20 minutes to you. Where did those 40 minutes go?
That's my question to the movie. Where did my 40 minutes go?
My question is, where did my life go for the past hour and a half? Anyway, is your point no longer valid?
Yeah, that was just a stupid joke.
Okay, great. Glad we did that. That's essentially what the movie was that. It's like, wait a second. And you're like, what? And just hold on. And you're like, okay. And I went, never mind. Thanks, cool. You just wasted my time. Awesome. And the movie went, yep, now we're going to have 3 vampires fighting each other.
Hey, but we have this deep emotional plot of these people bonding over their shared...
I'm not bonding with you at all.
Over these people bonding over their shared broken relationships.
All right, yeah. good for the first half. That's all I can really say about it.
Pretty much.
Really boring after that.
Didn't really expect much else, but I did expect it to be funnier for more of the movie.
Yeah, and it was funny too because like I said, for the first part, it felt like, oh, this is actually trying to be a good movie, and it's surprising me how it actually is kind of good, like stupid but good, and then it just didn't stay that way. So that's what we had to think. If you've seen it, if you've seen it, let us know what you thought of it in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.